So we are talking about group projects today, and this is a part of Module 4 that you've been looking at. Yeah, Module 4, and several groups have already gotten into it. So this is just to kind of reinforce some of what we were doing with that. So I would like to introduce to you Mary Rotundo, who is joining me today with the presentation, and she is in our Davie campus.
Hi everybody, and very excited to be here today. Group projects is one of my favorite things to do, so I'm really happy to be here today talking to you about what we feel, or what I feel, is a great learning tool.
And Rosemary, I see that you just joined in, so they'll be sending you the link to the Padlet, which is going to be our interactive piece, and the link to the sign-in page for you. So, Mary.
Yes.
Loving group projects. Why in the world would I do this?
Yeah, and group projects is something that both students and professors kind of shy away from, or kind of do it reluctantly without really loving it. So why should you do this? So as a professor, it really, for you, one of the benefits is it cuts down on your grading time. So sometimes we think, oh, it's not worth the time I put into creating these activities, but in the end, not having to check everything and having students, transferring that responsibility to your students actually does cut down on grading time. So that's one of the benefits.
Another one is that it actually provides, we've talked quite a bit, and we'll be talking more within the workshop on active learning, and a group project, it provides a really robust active learning piece, a way of having students totally engaged in what they are doing.
Absolutely. And then it is an internal peer review mechanism. So, like I said before, it cuts down on your grading time because there's this layered reviewing that happens that you don't necessarily have to do all yourself. So you have another set of eyes, people looking into the work and people looking at ways to make it better, to improve it, to enhance it. So in terms of the teacher, these are the benefits.
Mario.
How does it cut down on the grading time?
Exactly the same question. Exactly.
Okay, good question.
Exactly.
Good question. It cuts down on grading time because it's the end product that they submit is a group project. It's the grading, partial part of the grading goes to the whole group, and we'll talk a little bit more about the different ways of grading within a group project.
Yeah.
Good question. Mary, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, so basically instead of checking and marking and grading 4 individual pieces, you will check one where students have come together and work together. So just do the math, right, Mario?
I'm a mathematician.
So, and then there's other reasons why, and we'll see that further along the way, but that's a great question.
And so my students always complain when I try to present a group project. I always hear the moans and groans.
Yes, this makes students very uncomfortable. And this is actually what we want. And the reason for that is we want to prepare them for the future, right? That is our job. So in the future, where they're out in the real world, there won't be a single job that will not require them to work together. So cooperation, collaboration is definitely a skill they will need to learn, right? So,
Absolutely.
so I like to make this really transparent to my students. I really like to ask them now or later. So do you want to learn this now with me, with your classmates? Do you want to learn this now in an environment that is really safe, where we are learning from each other and where the stakes are really low, right? Because that's the way we're going to set up our groups to be. Do you want to learn this now when you have someone to teach you? Or do you want to learn this now when you're out there and it gets really, really real, right? High stakes.
So why would I want to make them uncomfortable?
Yes, because that, again, this is our role. And then there's another thing that will happen here as you see how uncomfortable they get. You will identify gaps, not only in their knowledge of your subject matter, which is discipline related, but you will see gaps in many other aspects. For example, you'll see gaps in the way they communicate with each other, in the way they interact with each other. So you will see leadership gaps there, time management and organizational skills. Not everybody, this is something that actually needs to be practiced, right?
Yeah.
Things like cultural competence, students coming together from different cultures, students speaking different languages. So that comes into play too when we have group work. Their skills in using technology, and we talked about this the other day, Yuri. Remember you said, oh, well, it's not the same as using social media. There are tools for communicating in the online and the academic setting that not everybody knows. So all of these things will come into play, and your students will have an opportunity to learn and practice these skills in, like we said, a very low stakes environment. So yeah, as a professor, I do want to make my students very uncomfortable right now, because that means I will be preparing them for life.
And that's the way to bring them where they need to be. So let's think about what we want to accomplish today. We have already started looking at some of the benefits, both to ourselves and to our students, of having engaging active group projects.
Mm-hmm. And then we're going to talk about 2 basic principles of cooperative learning, which in positive group dynamics. So we're going to talk a little bit about what the best practices and the theory have to say about that.
And we're going to take a look at what our role is in this process. It is not a matter of simply giving them an assignment and sitting back and seeing what they produce with it, but it's a matter of giving them the guidance along the way.
Absolutely. And I think that is where the change in paradigm really takes place. What is our role as group facilitators, right?
Absolutely. And we're going to have a chance to think about and interact with each other about group projects as we look at it together.
Yes. And so this is the analogy that came to our minds because I know someone who's very close to me who is a drummer. And I realized that when you see a drum set, there's different songs, different drums. Each one has a unique sound, but in a song, they somehow come together and produce this very harmonious mixture of sounds. So not a single drum by itself will be able to produce what collectively they can do as they work together. So this is what we are going to be, making the parallel between group work and drums. Again, each one is individual, but at the same time, they need to come together and work together to accomplish what none of them can accomplish on their own.
It's an interesting analogy and one that gives us a good perspective.
Yeah, because each one carries the tune, the other one carries the tempo, the other drum adds something special. So we will see as we go along the presentation how that can happen in your groups.
And Marcelo said someone has a comment to add.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So, Rahel?
Rosemary.
Rosemary, okay. If I backtrack to advantages, it also creates potential bonds between students, which is especially beneficial in the online environment. They may feel less isolated.
Absolutely. That's a great point, Rosemary. Thank you. Thank you. Creating bonds for them and giving them someone to refer to help them as they go through this process. And that's effective in any online course, but particularly so where you're doing a language course, and we've got Emmanuel in here also with a language course. So it is a great benefit. Thank you.
I use group work in my class, and whatever everything that Mary just said, I agree. Perfectly agree. My problem is with grading.
Okay.
Grading is a problem because if I, as a student, my grade is affected by the bad work of my teammates, I'm frustrated. And also the opposite is true. If my good grade comes only from, not from me, but the good work of my team workers, my professor feel is a goal. So it's a problem.
And that's one of the things that we're going to be talking about later on in there, is how to counteract those perceptions that come about within group work. So, yep, that's extremely valuable.
Yes. So before we move on and going back to Mario's question, how does it cut on grading time? That's one way it does, and that's the layered internal mechanism of peer review. Mm-hmm. So they go into each other for help in a way means that you don't have to be grading everything all the time.
Yeah, it's a part of the grading and the peer work is a part of the process. Mm-hmm. Set it up so that it all comes together. And one of the things that we have covered is that rhythm is a response mechanism. We can align rhythm to one of the principles of cooperative learning, this positive interdependence. Drums respond to each other just as within a group, we intuitively pick up on what the others are doing. The learning of each one of them is enhanced by the competence and by the performance of the others. It kind of fulfills that saying that a group project winds up, an effective group project winds up being more than the sum of each one of the individual parts because of what they bring and the way it correlates. Depending on the length and the nature of the task, this positive interdependence can be put into the group work in a lot of different ways. One way would be to balance the groups, the strengths of the groups, matching what the students bring in with what skills are needed. It's important to always provide clear tasks and roles. Another part of that is to define the roles and set expectations about what each member of the group is responsible for. That would address some of your concerns, Emmanuel, about the ones that tend to want to take over and the ones that want to sit back and let the others do it. And one really effective way of making that happen is through a group charter, so that they each have a document saying what they will be bringing to the group, how they will affect that. Sets the ground rules, and students can identify their own skills and how they're going to get there. So when you're setting up a group activity, always explain why we're doing this. Set the expectation for them and let them know what it is they are going to be accomplishing. How the tasks that they're going to be doing relates back to the objectives that we have set for the course. Making things relevant to them increases their engagement and their willingness to be a part of it.
Absolutely. Okay, so we are going to show you a video clip from a song that really shows how the individual contribution adds an unexpected dimension to what the group is doing. So before we talked about positive interdependence, group dynamics, but now we're going to talk about that special something that everybody brings into the mix. And then Emmanuel, after the video, we'll talk a little bit about possible ideas for grading in here. So this is a drummer. His name is Liberty DeVito, and he was the drummer for Billy Joel for many years. And the video shows, well, it doesn't show it, but you'll see it. They were auditioning for the song Just the Way You Are, and every single person who was coming was doing the exact same thing. And then one person came and instead of hitting the drum with a stick, used a brush. And that very simple act changed the song and made it what it is. So we're going to show that short clip.
Straight 4, 3, 4. Hold my heel. High.
Okay, so what we're talking about here is how to assess, how to make students accountable for their individual contributions. And one of the ways to do this is to have many low-stakes formative assessments along the way. So you may want to decide not to give them a grade, but make sure that you check in with your students along the way and that they know that you will be communicating with them. So the other important thing here is there's two different things that we're assessing. One is your learning outcomes, your objectives, and they relate to your discipline and your subject matter. So we have a set of criteria to assess those, but at the same time, we have a different set of criteria to assess social skills. So those underlying skills, those foundational skills will be assessed with a different set of criteria. And like I said, you may want to grade that or you may not want to grade that, but it is part of the process where you will be taking a look at how your students, for example, how they communicate to each other, how they work together, how they handle conflict, how they show respect. And another very important element that takes us back to the charter is how they set goals and how they stick to their goals. So along the way, there are checkpoints, there are instances where students know that their individual contribution will be looked at. Does that answer your question in a way, Emmanuel?
Yes, we could discuss for hours.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean,
Well, the rubrics would also be a beneficial help to that. And
Rosemary wants to know if do you have a standard rubric to pick from?
We do.
yeah,
We do have rubrics for that. We have rubrics for that measure that, well, that assess that. For the discussion board, we have rubrics that can be incorporated into your assignments. And there are also rubrics for peer review and self-review of those social skills. Yes, absolutely.
yeah, we can share a variety of rubrics and some that can be adapted to work within this. Even one that is more of simply a checklist where you put comments into would work for that, particularly for the individual checkpoints. Just a checklist. Yes, I did that. Yes, I did that.
Yes. And what Emmanuel said about us talking about these for hours, that's the idea. For us to give you something today that will make you think a little bit about the way you looked at group projects before and maybe ask yourselves, is this something that I can learn to love and that I would want to do with my students? It's
Yes.
the learning, yes.
No, Mary, I perfectly understand what you're saying, and I agree. Then I am thinking specifically to a class of mine, and I have to deal and I have to address a 20 years old student. If I address the 40 years old students, who just will be really different. So there are a lot of things that concern me about grading.
Yes.
I mean, I know my students, and I was a student, so
Yes.
grading is a problem. Generally, now everything I learned till today is very interesting, and I see the good things. What concerns me is grading.
Absolutely. And you're not alone there. Grading is probably a big issue when it comes to group work.
Jamari.
There was an article in the course that was very interesting that lists all of the potential problems
Yes.
with the project and potential solutions.
Yes.
Yes.
And my two problems are, I forgot the technical term that the article used, but the lazy people who
Yes.
will wait for the other people in the group to do the work for them. And then there's one that is not specifically stated, but I remember I was taking a software engineering class when I was doing my bachelor's degree. There was a guy, he was a seasoned programmer. He walked into the group and it says, you guys, I am going to do everything.
The overachievers.
I want to do everything. And at the time I was taking 4 classes, working full time. I'm like, man, good for you.
And there's invariably one of those within each group, and we come to that again in another couple of slides. But the charter, making sure that everyone makes a commitment to bring a certain part of it in.
This article is in the last module.
In module 4.
In module 4.
I'm going to read it.
That's the third one, module 4.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll bring this up some more. We'll have other opportunities to do that. So let's talk for just a moment about your task as the facilitator. You're the bass drum here. You are the heartbeat. You are the one that keeps your students in sync with their goals and with their goals as well as yours. And so it's important to be intentional about how you've set the groups up and how you match your students up. If you might by the time you set up a groups, it might be something that you can do so that you have had a chance to know what their skills are and be able to match them up with their skills and their strengths. And be sure that you provide, as we said earlier, those low stakes, non-threatening opportunities to bring in their own background knowledge and to bring in their own skills. And again, with the checkpoints, just how am I doing? What is it that I have needed to accomplish by this certain time? I was reading an article that came in actually just this morning about setting a rubric for an individual setting to look at what they have brought into the class and what they've contributed to the class. And I think that one could definitely be adapted to group work as well. So I'll share that with some of you, with all of you, of course. So you might have worked with some of them ahead of time, you know, on other things as you're coming up to this, and know where their skills are or know where their strengths might be. And as Rosemary brought out to us, this group work gives them an opportunity to practice their social skills and to get to know each other and to be able to know where they can pull from each other's. And so it's a matter of being intentional about the groups and being intentional about how you relate to them. And it goes back again to our backwards planning, knowing that what you want those groups to accomplish is relevant to your objectives. If their end result is going to be something that ties directly in to the objectives that you have for the course. So as long as your objectives are clear and specific and indicate what they do to show you that they have accomplished those objectives. And so that said, within that module, one of the objectives would be being engaged and an active participant within the group.
Okay, so here's our final analogy. What do we march to? So I thought about a marching band because when you're looking at it, it really looks effortless. They're coming together, and then at some point the drums mark some points, some pivotal points in the song, and then the entire band moves at one and changes direction. And from the outside, it looks really like, oh my God, so easy to do, right? They do make it look easy, but they have rehearsed and they have gone through it several times. So I thought this would be a very good analogy about what groups dynamics are like. They are messy. Group work is not something that will go from beginning to end, probably as expected. So it is good to plan for the unexpected. Plan for conflict. So you know from experience, some students tend to be free riders. Some students tend to be the overachievers.
Free riders.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They take over. They want to boss everybody around. Yeah. So knowing that in advance, there's a few things you can do. The charter helps. And think about the marching band and how at some points they change direction. This is where your checkpoints really, really can help smooth things out. So let's say you constantly communicate with your students to know where they are. And you make yourself available in case there's a problem. And if they need you, you then step in and take action. If they don't need you, if they have found a way to solve their problems on their own, great. But you need to have set up those checkpoints in advance. And I'm going to give you a very short example. I'm taking a class and we're doing a very long research project. And my professor has set checkpoints along the way. One of them she called the state of the paper. The paper doesn't exist yet. It's just an idea. But she made us go to class and give a 5-minute presentation on where we were at the moment. And not only that, but she made everybody in the class give feedback. So she created a checkpoint and she created the mechanism for us to interact and work together. So yes, group work, if you kind of set it up intentionally, all of those troubles can be alleviated and can be solved.
And I typically do both an individual grade and a group grade on a group project. And I have both set up on rubrics so that they know exactly what the expectation is, both group-wise, and let them know that, yes, for the group grade, everyone is getting that same grade, and that I will also be looking at their own personal reflections on their group work, as well as any comments, any interactive from the peer review, so that there's so that it seems to balance it out, the grade. And clearly for those, what was it, the free writers, by the time they finish the group project, I know who they are and have addressed them, and it will reflect in their individual grade.
Yes.
Are we ready, my dear?
Yes.
All right. So are we going to do any solos today?
No, I don't think so. Let's have the whole band join.
Let the whole band, let the whole group join in. So this is where we're going to invite you to go to the Padlet. And there's a question in there about how the group work reflects real life skills, right?
Mhm.
Yes. So let's give it a couple minutes. Yeah.
You should be able to just click on the page. No.
So in the chat, they put that link.
Plus sign. Okay, so
Yeah. If you want to comment, if you want to say something, you're more than welcome to.
Oh, maybe title. Title, we write our name.
title is just where you put your name, and then underneath there is your comments.
Yeah, right. Thank you.
Okay, so we would love to hear from you guys. So let's give it 2 or 3 minutes for you to answer the question on the Padlet, and then we'll come back together.
All right. I love Kathy's comment about a spirit of adventure. So we'll let each one of you share what you have put. All of them are really effective. Okay, Rosemary, you want to join in?
Well, I love what everybody wrote, and I love this kind of interaction that we can have. So I feel like we're sort of having a group project together, and I'm feeling the thrill of it that Emanuele is mentioning. So I really enjoy what he wrote, and I feel his enthusiasm. And I think to share that enthusiasm by planning backwards, like I said, I think it sort of takes sort of the stigma out of the whole thing for them as well.
Thank you.
Excellent. Yeah. So Emanuele, since she referenced yours, you want to share with us?
Should I read? Yes? Okay.
Yeah.
Working together is stimulating and existentially helpful. What a joy to share a victory, and what a relief to share a defeat.
Wow.
And then I don't know if the soccer metaphor is understandable to everyone, because I'm European, so I love soccer. I always loved to score a goal, but to give my teammate the ball for scoring a goal was always better.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. Nice, nice. Cindy, how about sharing yours?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear what was said before.
They were just reading what was on theirs. Emanuele and Rosemary so far have. So, but I like the comment that you put. So you want to share with us?
Well, my concern is that, and again, it's for the students that I've been working with, that they're practicing nurses.
Yeah.
They have to work in groups for to function correctly. And so really what we're doing in the classroom is carrying forward what they need to do in the work environment as well.
And reinforcing that, I'm sure, probably multiple times over.
Absolutely, absolutely. But when they, when they try to say, well, they don't understand the purpose, it is a necessary evil. We do have to work. We do have to get along and make it work. And in the process, we make for a better patient care situation.
Absolutely.
So this is a good starting point.
Yeah, and that's someplace I definitely want to know that they know each other's strengths and work to them.
Sure, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, and Rosemary, you've got another one over here too.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, I mentioned it's a necessary life skill for professional and personal life, as was pointed out in the beginning by Maria. And I think somebody else also mentioned the fact of always having to adapt to new tools. And, this big decision about which communication tool we're going to be using in Canvas is a big discussion that I was involved in. But the fact of the matter is we always have to adapt to new tools and even new versions. We get a new version of Facebook and everybody's like, oh no, what do I do now? So I think it's important to just kind of keep that rolling, and it's sort of like it's low stakes, like we mentioned earlier as well. So it is very important to just keep adapting constantly to the new technology, new versions, or just new technology in general.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So Kathy, how about yours? The spirit of adventure. You're back on your camping thing, right?
Oh, sure. The camping would be great, especially this time of year in Florida. But yeah, there's the human interaction, and also like Cindy just saying it, that the new technology is a piece that it's important for us to try it out and not be afraid to try it out. And in group projects, there's always problems. There are always going to be problems. And, we can either approach it as, I hate it because there's problems, or we can approach it as, all right, here we go into a new way to solve problems. And if you think about it in terms of marketable skills, the marketplace definitely wants folks who know something about synchronous online collaborative tools and problem solving.
Absolutely, absolutely. So Mario, you want to wrap it up on this page for us?
Yes, I like Emmanuel's analogy as well of having a victory at the end in this soccer thing. I was thinking mostly in terms of software engineering, where there is a product to be delivered at the end. There is a deliverable, and every single member has a different role to play.
Right.
And if they don't play their roles effectively, then there will be no final product.
And one of you mentioned, and I don't remember now who it was, that we're kind of, I think it was Rosemary, was saying that we're kind of in this together, even in this small aspect of it. But I'm going to make another connection, which I didn't write down on our Padlet, but I'm going to just reference it anyway. It to our journey with Canvas is truly a group project, because as each one of us tries or deals with a small piece of it, we bring it back to the group and share, and we all grow and learn in that process. So there's basically not a day goes by that we don't pick up some new little tip or trick or wisdom gem about Canvas and how it functions, how it works. So that's that seems to me that was as us in this small group here, but I think also in the group of us learning to love Canvas as a group. Okay, beautiful. Thank you so much. Mary, well, I am switching back over to to finish it up. You want to wrap this up?
Yes, two words that we really talked about here. We talked about the final product, the final victory, and how we can make that not the only piece that we're assessing. We can have those many low stakes forms of evaluation along the way, your checkpoints, your formative assessments that kind of takes away the deliverable as the only source of assessment, right? And then you can have your individual accountability built in there. And the second word that I go away always with this presentation is, yes, it is uncomfortable. It is really uncomfortable. But after you guys go through the experience, if we go through the experience, we have learned so much just from, acknowledging this is tough, this is going to be a process, we're all together in this. Make it transparent. I feel that the more you communicate with your students why you're doing this, the more they will be able to be supportive and engaged.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so the summary then from what we've done is talking about how it is and the reasons that group projects are such a great tool, and it's simply because that's what we're going to have to do with the rest of our lives as in real life, no matter what the size of the finished product. You were talking about working in a major business setting. We also work in here. We're all in a group project. So no matter what the end result is, it's something we're going to have to learn to deal with throughout our lives.
Yes, and we also reviewed those two principles, positive interdependence and individual accountability. They work hand in hand to make group work an effective learning tool.
Yeah, and we gave hopefully a little bit different perspective into our role as facilitator. Yeah, with the instructor, and yes, we have to do the grading on it, but we also are the guides, and we provide them with the scaffolding and the movement in order to effectively accomplish the end result. So, Mary, you want to finish with that last one?
Yeah, well, probably throughout the conversation, we were reminded why we love group projects, even though it's a little bit uncomfortable for everybody. It's worth a try.
Yep, definitely. And so this is this page. It shows our references, and I will also be glad to send out the rubrics that we discussed, some of the rubrics, and we can also share these articles too. Well, the middle one is an article. The other two are books. I love how people learn. That has always been a go-to book for me. And so some are upcoming things that you'll be receiving through here. Next week, we will be talking about OER, Open Education Resources. It's one of the things that the university is moving to, a group with the library and a group here within our department to start thinking about, looking at, and being able to recommend to professors one more tool to help make an education a little bit more affordable.
And then on March 27th, our friends from the library will be joining us, and they will be talking about scholarly publishing. And
probably throw a little bit of copyright in with that too. We had a really nice workshop on copyright, so they will bring up to date on what the university's standing is on it as we speak, as we're moving in that direction.
So thank you so much for attending our professional development today. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mary.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you much for joining us.